Hello everybody. So in this video we will discuss the variables. So in case of Java programming we have three types of variables, but before discussing the types of variables, let us understand what are variables. So basically variables can be considered as the containers which can hold single value at a time. Let's say I want to store some roll number, so I will be creating some variable of any particular type, let's say int type, and at a time you can hold one value over there. Second thing is variables can be of different types. So basically in case of Java we have three types of variables, and all the three types of variables are having different applications. They should be used properly whenever they are required. So let us understand what are the different types of variables. So first type of variable is called as local variable. So local variable you might be using from the very beginning. So local variable is a variable which is declared inside any block of a class. It means if you are declaring any variable inside a method, that is a local variable. You may be declaring any variable inside a loop. For example, you are writing for int I equal to 0. So this int I equal to 0 is a local variable. If you are writing here, let's say in this example, I have taken a function or a method void deposit, and here I am passing this int amount. So this int amount is a local variable, right? So what is the role of this local variable? Local variable are temporarily created in a particular scope, and they gets deallocated as soon as the scope completes. For example, this int amount will be created as soon as this deposit function will be called, and this amount variable will be deallocated as soon as this function completes. So outside this function, here you cannot access this AMT because this is a local variable, right? Some properties are there with the local variable. The first property is that local variables do not get any default value. Otherwise, in case of Java, we don't have the concept of garbage value. Here, any data member that you are creating will get some default value except the local variable. So there is a concept that is called as, if you are creating a local variable, you should initialize it before using, right? So before using it has to be initialized. If you are not initializing, then it will give you compilation error, local variable AMT might not have been initialized, right? So first property of local variable is it should be initialized before using it. Second property is that there is no access specifier allowed with the local variable. You cannot use public, private, protected with the local variable. Local variables are by default private in that particular scope only. They cannot be accessed outside that block. It may be if block, it may be loop, it may be function, constructor or initializer block. So local variable do not allow any access specifier. Local variables also cannot be declared static. Local variable are not supposed to have a static keyword because they are not the property of class. And the right. So this is your local variable. Now second variable is called as instance variable. Instance variable are the variables which are the property of your object. Means if you have no object, no instance variable is created. If you have one object, so that object will be having its own copy of instance variable. And if you create multiple objects, so every object will have its own instance variable. For example, real life example, if I talk about the bank account, so every bank account is having its own features, some features like account holder name, it means account holder name should be instance variable. Account number, every account is having separate account number, it means account number is also a instance variable. Account balance, balance is also a instance variable because every account has its own balance, right. Similarly, if you talk about a student, the student is having his or her own registration number, his or her own name, his or her own mobile number, all these are instance variable where you feel that the object have its own values. So, that is called as instance variable. So, here if I have declared this account number, so it has to be instance variable. Right. So, instance variable कैसे declare करेंगे? How we will declare instance variable? Instance variable is always declared in the body of a class. Class की body के अंदर if you declare, so instance variable will be declared inside the body of a class. As soon as your body of class starts, here you can declare some variables. So, those variables will be called as instance variable, whereas local variables are inside the body of a class within some block, right. But instance variable are not within the blocks, it is within the body of a class, right. So, you will write some type, then some reference variable or the identifier, and you can initialize it also. So, instance variables get the default value. Instance variable will get the default values. So, what are the default values? We have already discussed in the data type, still I am writing here. For all the number types, it is 0. For all the floating point numbers, it is 0.0. For Boolean, it is false, and for any reference type, object reference, it is null. So, these are the default values. So, let us say I have created account number as an instance variable here, it is int type, I am not initializing it. So, what value we will get? 0, because it is a number, right. Similarly, if I declare a string variable, a string is not initialized, so what value it will get? Because string is a class in case of Java, so it is a object reference, so it will get the value null, right. So, instance variables simple declared inside the body of a class, they always get the default value. Third thing is access modifiers, you can choose whether you want to make it private, whether you want to make it protected, whether you want to make it public, or you want to leave it default, right. So, all access modifiers are allowed here. One more thing is there, the instance variables are created inside the heap, inside the object in a heap, whereas local variables are created in the stack, fine. Then we have the third type of variable. Third type of variable is called as class variable or static variable. So, class variable or static variable, like here, it is similar to the instance variable, means they are declared in the body of a class, but they are qualified with the static keyword. If any variable which is declared inside the body of a class, but qualified with the static keyword, so it becomes the property of a class. Property of a class means only one variable will exist, right, and that variable, even if there is no object, this static variable will be created. Even if you create 100 objects, only one static variable will exist, and it is a shared variable. A static variable or class variable or this shared variable will be sharing its value with all the objects. If some value is there, so the value will be shared by all the objects. If any one object will change it, so it will be changed for everybody. So, generally we declare any variable static when you want to make something common for everybody. For example, if you talk about the bank account, So bank name is common for everybody. Every account holder is not having his or her own bank name, right? If you talk about a bank account of any particular bank. Similarly, one more example in the bank account, IFSC code, MICR code, all these things are property of a class. They are not the property of the objects, right? So static variable is similar to instance variable, but they are qualified with the static keyword. They are also getting the default value, but they are created in the class area. So memory allocation, default value, access modifier, everything is different here. Memory allocation for instance variable is in the heap inside the object, class variable is in the class area, local variable in the stack, default value allowed, allowed, not allowed, right? Access modifier allowed, allowed, not allowed. So this is all about the variables, and we will discuss this with an example program. So that will be in the next video. Thank you.